Hello, everybody. I'm back. I got 2 videos in one day, or I don't know if I'll release them like that. I fell a day behind in my 5 videos in 5 days. But anyways, I would like to thank everybody that's been following and keeping up with it. It means the world to me. I'm glad to see my views going up again. Today I'm going to talk about how I actually got addicted to opiates. I've kind of touched on it in other videos, but I never really went fully in depth. So you should know that, I had a pretty good upbringing. I definitely wasn't primed for substance abuse in many ways. I might have had some problems. I was a lonely kid and whatnot, but, looking back to see where I went, with how hardcore the addiction got, you definitely wouldn't have seen it. I had a good life, man. My family took me to the Bahamas and I had snowboarding trips and, I got yelled at as a kid, but, I messed up. So maybe, it was nothing out of line on my parents' end. But, for whatever reason, I had that predisposition. And I actually went a long time without triggering it. I was 15 years old. And I wear contacts. I actually haven't worn them for a while. But I did wear contacts. And sometimes I had the kind you could sleep in. And sometimes, like a piece of dust or something would get under it. Or maybe the contact lens would get scratched. And if you go to sleep like that, it can really mess up your eye. You wake up with an eye infection. So I was younger and I didn't really understand, the importance of being, completely hygienic with contact lenses. So that happened a few times. I got eye infections. I would go to Ready Med. They would numb my eye, give me antibiotics, and it'd be good. It was no big deal. So it would have been the third time I went to the Ready Med, which I don't know if is that a thing where you guys live? We just call it the Ready Med. It's not a hospital, but a little mini hospital. I don't know. Anyways, I go there and I get this weird doctor, man. This is the key thing I remember is the doctor, he had, their scrubs. It was unbuttoned to here. And he had just a ton of chest hair. He was really showing it off, just a straight up rug. And he had it was a bit of a redhead. So he had, it was very noticeable. And he seemed a very much like a country doctor. And the first thing he asked me was if I work in a sawmill. I'm 15 years old. I tell him no. And he says, okay, because, you have that injury is very common for people that work in a sawmill. You get sawdust in your eye. I was like, yeah, man, I don't work in a sawmill. So he really pushed that, I remember. And then he wrote me a prescription for 10 days worth of antibiotic drops for the infection and 30 days worth of Vicodin for the pain. And keep in mind, this was, when you had that infection, it was super painful to look at light. It was really bad. My family, it was horrible. I'd be sitting in the darkness, with covers over my head because even that little bit of light would hurt. So, my family, it was a big deal, point being. But as soon as they gave me those numbing drops and the antibiotic drops, by the time the numbing drops wore off, I guess the antibiotics had done enough that the pain wasn't so bad. So there was really no need for painkillers, let alone 30 days worth. So it was very weird that the doctor did that. But I don't, and this is where a lot of people will debate. When you tell this story, especially in rehab, a lot of people like to jump on it as, oh, that evil doctor, he was trying to get people addicted. It's not your fault. And there's a lot of that narrative regarding the opiate epidemic. I don't believe that because even at 15, I knew what Vicodin was. I knew that it was addictive. I knew that this was a thing in America that was going on, the overprescribing of opiates, the idea of quack doctors. The idea of quack doctors has been around since the 40s. This is not a new thing. It always blows my mind when people will try to not take responsibility for getting addicted to pharmaceutical opiates or any pharmaceutical drug just by being I didn't know it was addictive. And it's dude, what? Forget, even if you're Amish or whatever, to the point, you'd have to be living under a rock not to know that opiates aren't addictive. Just from, I remember knowing what Vicodin was just from sitcoms like Two and a Half Men made jokes about it. Everybody knew what it was and that it was addicting. It's the opiate. Duh. And even if you didn't know all that, I had a conversation with somebody and they had a great analogy. if somebody gave you a piece of the most delicious chocolate cake and it's the best thing you ever ate, then on top of that, they said, yeah, guess what? No calories. Would you believe that? Or would your common sense of too good to be true kick in? So anyways, that's my little soapbox. So with that said, I don't make it like, and then I just took a pill and I didn't know. Like, I remember my grandma, we went to Rite Aid and she filled both prescriptions. And my grandma was, she wasn't the type of woman to like hold the pills for, I could take them. And I remember I took advantage of that. Even at that age, I remember, thinking manipulatively that I can take these pills for my grandma right now and nobody else will see them and she won't say anything about it. And I did that. And I remember, knowing that if I told my other family members that, I just got prescribed Vicodin and I'm going to take one, they like probably, they'd be holding on to it. There would be something, they wouldn't just let me hold it. So, I took one and we were driving up north at the time. For anybody that knows Michigan, I probably took the first pill around the Zilwaukee Bridge. And by the time we were at West Branch, about 30 or 40 minutes north, I never felt the same since. Like, that's to say, like, the knowledge of knowing that feeling exists forever changed me. It created this little voice in the back of my mind that still gets at me today that says, you could feel good. You could feel great about yourself. You could feel all the confidence in the world. You can talk to anybody. And I don't know how to describe it. I was just this fat little kid. I wasn't in good shape back then. I wasn't popular. And all of a sudden, like, I just felt okay with everything. And it was just, I remember thinking, if I have to keep this feeling going forever. And I started breaking down the math. Like, okay, one of these pills lasts a day. Well, then this is 30 days worth. And then what? I don't know. But it's 30 days I'm going to take. But here's the thing. The next day, I took 2 pills at once. Day after that, 3 pills at once. Then 4 pills. And I think I maxed out at 5 or 6 pills. But even at that age, 15, first time I ever was intoxicated at all, I immediately, started upping the ante like that. And at that point in my life, though, once that prescription was gone, it was gone. I didn't know anybody that, used drugs. I went to a very academic type school. So it was about, I think, maybe like a year later until I met some people that were like smoking weed and stuff. And I sought out the pills. And, from the pills, I went quickly to the Oxycontins, which were the big thing. And that was only like a thing for me for about 2 years, from ages 16 till 18. I was like actively seeking out heroin. I'm not one of these people that tells the story about like, yeah, I was, hooked on the oxys and then, one day I just couldn't find them anywhere. And then, my boy brought over some dope and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And some people make these stories where it's like, people damn near, they claim, that people damn near forced it down their throat. And it's like, man, I ain't going to say that. I actively sought it out. And I remember the dude who gave it to me. And here's another difference is when a lot of people hear this story of like, the person who gave somebody their first heroin dose, they think, oh, what a scumbag piece of shit. Because I've done that to people, and it was not predatory, because you don't have to understand. You have to understand, like, I didn't understand yet that opiates would do the things they did to me. I thought I had discovered like a cheat code to life. I wanted to show this to my friends, like, listen, this is a secret, like, this is awesome. The secret to life, a hack, if you will. I thought I was helping people, as screwed up as that sounds. So I think this guy, was similar. He made a couple bucks off me, but not much. I think he really just thought, he wanted to show me something he was enthusiastic about. And I ended up being just as enthusiastic. Anyways, man, what was his name? They called him Buddha on the street. But Justin Justin Arredondo. Yeah, he's a good dude. I actually ended up running into him in prison. He actually pulled off like a successful smuggling operation. He's one of those guys where when he's sober, he's a real high level dude. Good guy too. But anyways, I met him when he was strung out there. And I think it was, if you remember my older videos, I was selling the pills online. So he was kind of a middleman. He knew a lot of people that had those. And he was strung out on heroin. So I was already doing a ton of the oxys. And I just asked him, like, let's throw down and get some. And I remember we met this dude who drove like a really creepy white van. White guy, white dealer. Real lanky and track marks everywhere. Just looked like a goofy dude, man. Kept driving to the wrong parking lot. He was all messed up. And it was a real weird introduction to it. But I remember he handed us, it was folded up in like notebook paper, like some homework type shit. And I only bought like $15 worth. And that $15 worth went further than like $100 worth of oxy. I couldn't believe it. And I remember the dude offered to shoot me up. He's like, I got clean syringes. And I'm like, nah. That was the one thing. I ended up going to that pretty quick. But I was like, no, I'll just snort it this time. I'm surprised. And it was more so just because I was scared, like, I don't know how to dose this stuff or anything. And, at that point, I had been abusing the pharmaceutical opiates for like 2 years. And, they say you're always chasing that first high. And that 100%. Like, I never got as good as those first Vicodin days. But when I started that heroin for the first time, it was its own first time. And it was so overwhelming. It was, I don't want to say psychedelic. I think that will give people the wrong idea. But it was almost like a fever dream. I remember later into it when I did more and it's getting to be nighttime, I was almost like having auditory hallucinations. I was hearing shit. Come to think of it, I passed out in a parking lot about 2 blocks down there. I never even thought about that. And it was, and it was a weird thing, man, because I felt like a rite of passage. I don't know how to explain it. I had sought out all these bad things, all these kind of underworld elements, if you will. And I think prison was even part of that. Don't get me wrong, I didn't want to go to prison, but there was a part of me that I guess was or is glad that I have the stories. And I don't know what it is, that infatuation about doing the wrong thing that I had, but it made me a social pariah. And what's weirder is I'm not one of these guys that leans into being an outsider. Like, I got some tattoos and stuff, but I don't mean my neck's not blasted. I don't mean on my face, no piercings. I do desperately want to be loved and adored by people. So it's, I couldn't tell you what it was that drew me to like want to do these things. My first story about injecting, most people's stories, their friend did it for them or somebody, they always got a story about how they were introduced to it. I don't know if people say that to like, take some responsibility off of them or what, but I wasn't like that. Man, I walked my happy ass into that little Rite Aid with I had a whole play. I literally put on a play for Rite Aid. I walked in there. Hey, my girlfriend's mom's cousin's dog's teacher, is diabetic. And then I had like a little piece of scrap paper with insulin. What's this word? Syringes? They turn around. Yeah, 31 gauge, 1 cc, half milliliter. But no, I used to really go through those through those like real song and dances to get syringes. And I don't think it ever mattered. I think they're either going to sell them to you or not. I think they have it determined as soon as they see you. But yeah, I went through that whole shindig and I got them. And man, I must, I don't know if I even did it successfully for the first 5 times. I think I mostly just skin popped it because I was such a chunky kid back then. I didn't really have protruding veins and I was trying to hit my hand. But anyways, in this whole time, I'm dating like a straight-laced girl. a girl who was like an incredibly talented dancer, danced at Obama's inauguration, and she don't know nothing about any of this. She knows that I'm in trouble with the law because I had been raided at this point, and I'm hiding in her bathroom doing heroin. And that's one thing that kind of I look back on. That was like my first girlfriend, and I doubt like I broke her heart or anything like that, but I definitely that was a bad thing to do. I shouldn't have done that. Choosing drugs over somebody like that, it makes you feel bad. And here's the difference: at that age, the addiction wasn't bad enough that I had a choice in the matter back then. So it kind of bums me out. But after that point, at that point, we reached my first jail term, and at that point, I'm injecting heroin. I'm about to get into speedballs, and I wouldn't say I'm just a beginning addict anymore. So I think that would be a good point to end this part of the saga. I think my next video, maybe I'll talk about like first going into prison. That'd be a good one. Anyways, please visit my website below. Follow me on Twitter. I'm really trying to build up my Twitter. I'd appreciate if you just want to chat, hit me up on Twitter, follow me, anything. I appreciate any of the comments and likes here. It all helps me on the algorithm, and I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you for watching.